Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.
Hello and welcome to History for Weirdos.
We're your hosts, Andrew
and Stephanie.
And each week, we're going to take you on a journey into the strange, obscure, and relentlessly entertaining corners of human history.
Now listen up, friends, because it's about to get weird. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of
History for Weirdos.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're so happy that you are listening to us right now. That's our bird Delta.
She is also happy that you're listening.
I don't know if you all could hear that, but we do have a bird and she squawks. So our apologies for the animal background noises that you're bound to hear during this podcast.
Yeah, definitely every once in a while you'll hear like little or like Stella just running around being an idiot.
And Stella's our corgi.
Mm-hmm.
She's okay. And we tolerate her and she tolerates us. We think she's secretly a cat.
Yeah, definitely.
But for this episode, I'm super excited because you're going to tell like what sounds like, he just gave me a very brief explanation. What sounds like a really interesting story.
Yes, it is. This is a little unique because I think previously what I've done is kind of just given like detailed descriptions of events that have happened in the past, you know, kind of like just like
retelling weird stuff.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. This one, it's a little bit more, I'm a little actually nervous because it's like diving kind of into the psyche, and we are going over one of the most, if not the most controversial group in human history.
Okay. Tell us what it is, babe.
We are going to dive into the Nazis, and not only the Nazis, but secret societies. Secret societies
within the Nazi party?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, are the Nazis controversial, or are they just, like,
terrible?
Yeah. Infamous.
Yeah, infamous. Maybe that's a better word. Yeah, infamous. Exactly. And this was also, it's kind of weird about this episode, is usually the weird stuff we've done before has kind of been, like, cool or a little offbeat. This is weird, but is also, like, pure evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, malevolence and just literally pure evil.
It's on the other end of the weird spectrum in that it's almost like, how the hell is this possible?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And I'm trying, and part of like what I'm going to be doing here is trying to like dive into like some events. I mean, it's not like we're going to do like a crazy deep dive, but just trying to understand how this could happen.
Right. Yeah. No, this is definitely, we give brief, broad stroke stories. Mm-hmm. We try to get, important details right as much as we can, but this is not an educational podcast, my friends. We cannot guarantee you will learn things. It might just happen accidentally.
Exactly. Hey, that's good enough, right?
That's good enough for us, definitely.
Okay, so I know you've made a lot of fun of me in the past about not citing sources, so I'm doing this at the beginning.
Do it right at the top. I like it.
I have here in my hand a National Geographic called Secret Societies, True Tales of Covert Cults and Organizations and Their Leaders.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I derive most of my information from. It's pretty, honestly, I really recommend it because I know I'm just covering kind of like two that were within the Nazi Party, but they have everything from like ancient times to more or less present day.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. Definitely one of my favorite National Geographic magazines I've ever read.
Yeah, I'll post a picture of it on our Instagram for folks to see. You can follow us at History for Weirdos.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm really excited, babe.
Okay.
Go ahead and dive in.
Okay, so before we even get to the secret societies, we have to kind of understand the prevailing German psyche in the prelude to World War II. And we have to dive into actually like World War I. And so just a very incredibly 30-second brief summary of World War I. World War I kicked off in 1914 with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And that was kind of a powder keg. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back. All of the powers of Europe just ended up, they hated each other, and they ended up, that was the catalyst for them just fighting.
Right.
And the fighting lasted for 4 years, and then the Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919. And I will never forget this, but in AP Euro history, when I was in high school, I remember, I think it was like a substitute teacher or something, he wrote on the board the Treaty of Versailles, and then in parentheses and underlined, worst treaty ever.
Absolutely.
Because that treaty essentially, and I'll dive into a little bit, led to fascism and led to World War II.
Yeah.
An even worse conflict.
Of course, yeah. It was not a treaty.
It was not a treaty. Yeah, it was punitive. Actually, you have that in my notes here.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the Treaty of Versailles, in fact, this is exactly what I wrote. The Treaty of Versailles was a harsh sentence on German economics and were very largely punitive in nature.
Yeah.
So get this. They had, and this was in 1919, 1920, 21, early, so basically early 20s. They had to pay the equivalent of this is a day as in Germany, $33 billion in payments as stated by the Treaty of Versailles and later clarified in the 1921 London Schedule of Payments.
$33 billion?
$33 billion, and this is back in, again, 1921.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's almost like they never wanted them to be able to pay off the amount.
In fact, it's funny you say that because Germany in 2010 made news because they made the final payment.
Oh my God.
2010.
That's nuts.
It is nuts. So, and this just sent the German economy into a spiral.
Of course.
So in December, and I think this point perfectly illustrates it, in December 1923, the exchange rate between the German marks and $1 was 5.7 billion to 1.
Oh my God.
That is some of the worst runaway inflation, I think, in history.
That's terrible.
5.7 billion marks to $1 was the exchange rate, December of 1923. In fact, they stopped that currency and had to create a brand new currency.
That's so insane.
It's utter insanity.
As millennial college graduates, we understand crippling debt, you guys, and this one hurts even me.
I know. And so obviously that the Treaty of Versailles placed a huge portion of the blame on Germany, and it was, and most historians kind of agree now that was very much so undeserved.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really learned it that way.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely the aggressors, but they didn't start the war. And so, and honestly, there was plenty of blame to go around. They just happened to be on the losing side of it.
I see.
Yeah, again, they weren't the good guys, but in that war, really no one was.
Okay.
So, and then also just to make matters worse, during the 20s, the Allies, especially the United States, experienced unprecedented growth.
I was about to say, we had the Roaring 20s
at
this
we had
time.
The Roaring 20s, people getting rich off the stock market.
Right.
They're becoming overnight, essentially present-day millionaires. And whereas Germany was in recession the entire 20s, basically.
The poor everyday German person at that time. I feel so much for them, for people who had, as we do as citizens, had no say in what their government would do or not do, and just suffered the consequences more than anybody.
Yep.
That's so sad.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But again, 1929 happens, the United States gets thrown into the Great Depression right after the stock market crash, and this had effects in England, France, because some of their economy, I'm not going to dive into it because, one, I don't know the particulars, and two, it's not really poignant for this. But, they experienced some recession and depression as well.
As a ripple effect.
Exactly. But then also Germany was tied to America in two very crucial ways, which then sent their economy into a downward spiral.
Even more of a downward?
Even more so.
Wow.
So Germany relied on American banks for access to easy capital.
Okay.
So that they could, they would essentially, get loans to grow their businesses. In a very
through American banks.
Through American banks, because
Okay.
they're the ones that had like excess cash.
Right.
This, after the stock market crash, this access to cash just dried up.
People, is that like what I'm thinking of, like depicted in films, like people running to the banks trying to get their money out?
Yeah, like the infamous like run on the banks.
Yeah.
Just to get their cash out. And so obviously, American banks couldn't even like lend to Americans. They're not going to be lending to Germans.
Exactly.
So, and then also the second really important thing is, speaking of that growth that I said earlier, German exporters really relied on American consumers for expansion of their businesses. And the American federal government put up tariffs to protect, domestic companies.
That's
Yeah.
not nice.
No.
I mean, I get it.
I understand it, but this action led to the prolonged Great Depression. If they allowed our markets to remain open, most economists believe that it wouldn't have been as profound.
Right. I think it makes sense to do things like this in the short term, but essentially it's like it's limiting the overall wealth that can be distributed globally, and when it's distributed globally, it gets back to you.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. Because what happened is we put up tariffs against other, like pretty much every other foreign entity. They put up tariffs against us, and it was just like
everyone
boom, boom,
was
boom,
just
boom,
like
boom.
being super pouty.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what it was. And, these German products were now unaffordable to the mass of Americans who were already struggling as it was. So, and then like a third thing that's not really related to Americans was actually internal, but the Weimar Republic, which was the German government at the time, and like kind of right after World War I and before the Nazis took over.
Okay.
Their response to this whole thing was to raise taxes and to cut employees' wages, which just like literally
my God.
worst idea ever, man. They were just really, really concerned about like their deficit spending, but
That's so awful.
But I mean, yeah, this isn't the right way to do it. So
raise taxes and cut wages?
Yep. And I don't know. I'm not an expert in German economy in the 1930s, but I know, right? I know.
That's why
Shoot
I married
me now.
you.
But I do have to say that I don't think there was a ton of free enterprise at the time, and so a lot of it was, unfortunately, a lot of jobs were tied to government. So
right, no, I would assume so.
So this would
That's a good point, though.
Yeah, this kind of action right here would affect like millions of people.
Only the government would do a move like that.
Only the government, man.
Yeah.
Only the government. So this is where all this that has happened in the past, over 10 years now, this is where the German populace minds were at. They have been crushed and crushed and crushed for years. So, like, now that we understand how the regular
where
German person, where they're coming from, we can kind of understand how there was almost like a willingness for a savior, no matter who awful that would be. Just that there is a savior. So now that we kind of understand that German psyche, I kind of want to also now go back again and explore the roots of the Nazi Party.
Okay.
So predating even the party itself, there was a secret organization called the Thule Society, founded Thule, Thule.
Okay.
So this isn't an explicit Nazi Party secret organization. However, a lot of like OG Nazis
were in the Thule Society.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it'll make sense in a second. They espoused racial dominance of the quote-unquote Aryan race, who fought the quote-unquote degenerate races for thousands of years.
I just threw up in my mouth, everyone.
Yeah, it gets worse. Initiates in the organization had to swear that, again, quote, no Jewish or colored blood flows in either his or his wife's veins. End quote.
Oh my God.
Yes. In fact,
they weren't trying to hide it at all.
No. They straight up, I mean, it was a secret society, but they straight up were like...
But this is their proclamation
exactly.
of white supremacy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Not white supremacy and like utter dominance. Like not even like... It's really bad. And like I put this point in here too, like, because it kind of illustrates their like almost fanaticism. There was an artist in the group. I don't know, didn't get a name.
Okay.
But in 1935, he painted an infamous painting called "The Standard Bearer," showing Hitler as an armored knight holding a large swastika flag. And this was reminiscent of the largely Germanic Teutonic Knights from the Crusades.
Oh, so Hitler as a crusader.
Basically, as a crusader.
Hitler doing God's work.
Yes. Which is very ironic. I'll get to, actually, I'll say that for like a little bit. But it's very ironic.
Well, the Crusaders were also jackasses.
They were
so
jackasses.
I guess that makes sense.
That does make sense, yeah. So this Thule Society attracted, again, like I said earlier, the early members and sympathizers of the Nazi Party and kind of laid the foundation of the party itself. Early and most loyal, like paramilitary... the earliest and most loyal paramilitary and military units of the Nazis were not only were they in this organization, but they like an offshoot of this ended up forming the infamous Schutzstaffel, which is in English called the I guess translates to the Protection Squad, or AKA simply the SS. So SS Reichsfuhrer Heinrich Himmler was like utterly fascinated by secret societies. I don't know if he was in the Thule Society or not. I think it's safe to assume he probably was.
Right.
But he was fascinated by them. And this is like literally like Hitler's, maybe if not like just one of his right-hand man, this might be his actual right-hand man, like number 2 dude in the entire Nazi party.
Right.
This guy was incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So he modeled the SS on the Teutonic Knights. And like for Himmler, he envisioned that like SS officers were like the spiritual successors and descendants of the Teutonic Knight organization.
I'm like covered in chills this whole time.
I know, like this is stranger, and this is actual Nazi doctrine here. Like this is like, this isn't just like some like, oh, like it's deep within the party and it's kind of obscure. No, this is like literally like the actual like Nazi like standard.
Right.
It's insane.
Absolutely delusional, cruel, psychotic in the worst ways.
Yes.
Like this is...
I know. It's...
Wow.
Yes, it's... I don't even know. I can't put words to it, honestly. I'm kind of at a loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gets even worse.
Okay.
So,
let's keep going.
As you can expect from Nazis.
This is definitely what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, where this is weird history and that the weirdness is like horrifying.
Right. This is the first time I think that this is not a good weird. This is just pure malevolence. So the SS would work tirelessly under Himmler to restore a pure Germanic culture in the country. They even put Germanic pagan symbols on their uniforms as they truly believed in this mysticism.
Oh, so like they're ancient, really, like pre-Christianity.
Yeah, pre-Christianity, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
They saw themselves as Teutonic Knights, but not because of the Christian aspect.
Right. So they truly are advertising like the pride is in that we come from
the Germanic
this land.
Culture.
Yeah, the blood.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and they had such reverence, to the country's ancient past, and they would instill an obedience and larger patriotism for the Nazi regime, not anything else. That was like the number one thing, is like they're pulling all these things to support the Nazi regime.
Right.
And then ironically, this would come at the expense of organized religion, which the Teutonic Knights revered above all else.
Right.
The Catholic Church was what they served.
Exactly.
It's very ironic.
Yes.
And again, with Nazis, they don't care about anything decent. It's just whatever can fit their needs.
Exactly.
And they'll throw away anything else.
Logic goes out the window as long as they can manipulate things to get what they want.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. So this would all culminate in their minds with a new order of the entire European continent led by Germany. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously and thankfully, this did not come to fruition, as we should all know the Allies won World War II. And again, I hope you all know this, but yes, the Allies won World War II in 1945, and Hitler committed suicide. Blah blah blah.
I'd say it's fair to clarify this point, because a lot of folks listening, probably like us, studied history in the United States, which means we don't know anything.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's just clarify. The Allies won.
The Allies won. So, yeah, like coalition of like U.S., Britain, Soviet Union, Australia, Canada, all the good guys.
I always forget about Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Australia. Yeah, they were important.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, speaking of Australia, if you haven't heard the episode of the Great Emu War, definitely recommend that one.
A much more lighthearted war.
Yeah, much more lighthearted. That one's just funny.
Yes.
Except for the emus.
Except for the emus. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, emus.
Fallen soldiers.
Oh, yeah, and France, too. They were part of the Allies.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm just going to pause here and give just a kind of a recap of what happened. So, Germany was, lack of a better term, was in the crapper in the 20s and the early 30s.
Absolutely.
Gave rise to the Nazis. The Nazis had their foundation in just besides idiocy, racial supremacy, bigotry, xenophobia, all the isms that you can think of.
All the fun stuff.
All the good stuff, yeah. Yeah, Hitler, man, that dude was a peach.
Yeah.
So, that's, and then, they had these grand visions of conquering all of Europe, spouting their BS to everyone else, and and that a lot of it came from the Thule Society earlier. So, mentioning the Thule Society, though, is interesting because that was a catalyst for spreading Nazi ideals. But this next organization I want to talk about was not only spreading Nazi ideals, but was actually responsible for spreading the Nazis themselves.
Okay.
So this, and I know, I leave that for a little bit of, I want to pause here because it seemed like you're confused a little bit.
It is. What does that mean?
It is confusing. Because we're going to jump ahead to the end of the war.
Okay.
So by the close of 1944.
Oh, shoot.
Yes. You know where it's going now.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're at the end.
We're at the end now.
It's probably what I'm fearing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going.
So the end of 1944, combined American, Canadian, and English invasion force had landed in Normandy and along France and has been marching towards the Rhine. And then the war for the Nazis on the Eastern Front wasn't faring much better. The Soviets were pushing back, and they were marching on towards Germany. So they were essentially getting like a vice, or
squished.
They were getting squished back into Germany.
Yeah,
from both the East and the West. A lot of Nazi leadership saw this as the beginning of the end.
Okay.
They had no illusions. They weren't like Hitler. They were like, we're going to fight back. They're like, yeah, this is over. Like, we're screwed at this point.
They saw the writing on the wall.
Exactly. They were evil, but they weren't stupid, unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I know. So this dreams of a Nazi empire were, and thankfully, were quickly turning into a twisted fantasy and would never materialize.
Yay!
It was, during this time, again, like I said, those Nazi officials, according to, famous Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal.
Famous Nazi hunter.
I know. That's a great occupation.
That's a very cool
I was born
job.
too late. I mean, they're all dead. Not all, if they're not all dead, it's like they're in their 90s. It's like...
They're close to it.
Yeah, it's like jackass. But
you could be a Nazi hunter and just find the really old guys and just be like, jackass!
Yeah.
And
then they just have a heart attack and die. Oh, that's amazing.
Okay,
so this dude, Simon Wiesenthal, dope Nazi hunter, he theorized that it was around this time that the Nazis decided to create a secret organization to transport themselves, colleagues, and family to safety after the Nazi regime's inevitable collapse.
They had a backup plan.
And unfortunately with Nazis, they were very, very efficient, and they could get things done. Very unfortunate. This organization became known as Odessa, an acronym that in German was stood that, and but like in the way it translates to English is the Organization of Former SS Associates.
That's not a fun group.
Not a good group. So, using the immense wealth that was largely coming from the theft of Jewish people and others that were deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime, they were able to develop very complicated transportation and logistics networks.
From the money that they stole. The art that they stole.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
These
Yeah,
such pieces of shit.
There's no redeemable qualities.
No, like
in this
literally
situation.
none.
Yeah.
This groundwork set the stage for delivering its members to countries that were sympathetic to the Nazi regime.
No.
Mainly Paraguay and of course infamously Argentina.
¿Por qué?
I know the Latina in you is like, no.
Don't bring them over here.
I'll get to it in a little bit. Those are where most of them went. But I will, at the end, I'm going to discuss something else as well.
Yeah, okay. I'm so upset.
Yes.
I knew all of this, and I'm so upset every time I hear it.
Yeah. It's really upsetting. Not going to lie. So, these members were given really well-forged documents establishing new identities and quote-unquote, like, legends. So, like, fake, backstories.
Right.
For these SS officers and their families.
So it's like being in witness protection, but it's Nazi protection.
Yes, pretty much.
That's disgusting. Go on.
And, like, not only just witness protections, I think usually, like, continental United States. Maybe, Alaska or Hawaii. But, this was getting people, like, to the other side of the world. It's pretty, while they're essentially under siege, right, from both sides.
Oh, my God.
So, and these, oh, my God, get this, though. These documents were so good that these former SS officers were even hired by, like, the U.S. Army to be truck drivers shuttling people and goods across the country because they just thought, like, oh, yeah, they're normal people. These documents check out.
Oh, my God.
So we unknowingly and unwittingly were, like, helping them out, our U.S. Army.
That's so vile to think about.
I know.
But we did knowingly and wittingly hire Nazi scientists.
That's what I was going to get to. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to later. You ruined the point.
I'm so sorry. That's one of our least proud moments, and we have many unproud moments as Americans.
That is true. So secret transit points were established at border crossings where, like, these Nazi officers and other war criminals would be handed off and begin, like, the next stage of their journey. So, like, they would go into, like, Switzerland, and then, like, once they're there, they're kind of like, it's a lot easier, right? To like,
in this is pissing me off so much because that's exactly how Jewish people and lots of other minority groups had to flee from them, and now they're just kind of like, oh, we're gonna do the same thing and save our own skin.
Exactly, using the wealth that they stole
from these people.
Right. It's so messed up.
Erg.
So, I know. Basically, most of these people would eventually find their way into, South American regimes, like, countries with regimes that were sympathetic to the Nazi cause.
So it's like, just to clarify, it's like the governing body of Argentina or Paraguay were aware.
Oh, yes, they were very aware.
And, like, super down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Juan Perón, the president of Argentina, fully endorsed this. With him, it wasn't necessarily more... It probably was, he agreed with the Nazis, on some level. Probably not, he wasn't a fanatic, but, like, he agreed, definitely racist.
Right.
But then also, he realized, though, he's like, these, like... There's a lot of smart people. They could help Argentina. Like, we don't care.
He thought they would come and bolster his country.
Exactly.
Because they had accomplished, in his eyes, I use it loosely so much.
Exactly. And, like, within these Nazi officials were, like, doctors, were engineers.
Right.
Like, the Nazis were the first, they first developed rockets before, like, Americans or Soviets.
So he wanted
or English.
The asset of their knowledge
exactly.
and their skills. But was also probably racist. To be fine with this, you have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And racism is super prevalent in Latin America. I mean, it's a global issue, really.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know it's messed up. But what's also happened, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but from the South American side, but these Nazis would come over. They're smart, they're powerful.
Mm-hmm.
They develop their own little spheres of influences within communities.
These countries?
Within communities within the country, within even governments themselves, like of the Argentinian and Paraguayan governments. Yeah, Paraguayan. That sounds good. So, and amongst some of these most notorious war criminals was number one, the infamous Adolf Eichmann.
Yeah.
Who we all know was one of the chief architects, if not the actual chief architect of the Holocaust.
Yep. Well,
He's the one
getting
who was,
chills as you tell this.
He was the one that set up all the transportation and logistics of the Holocaust that could actually make it happen. It's really messed up.
I just can't. Yeah.
But with what makes me happy though, Eichmann was eventually caught, as we know, and was executed by being hung from the neck until death on June 1st, 1962.
Good for the people that dedicated themselves to finding these awful human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just, I love that it was Israeli forces too.
Yes.
That were no, we're going to go get this mofo and then we're going to kill him.
Yeah, we're going to.
But you know what though? They gave him a trial.
They gave this
just complete, utter, piece of crap a trial.
It's way far more than that shell of a man would have ever done for another human being.
No, he was responsible for millions of deaths.
Yeah, and they gave him a trial.
And they still gave him a trial.
Yeah.
I mean, he treated the Jewish people worse than animals.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Thank God they got him.
Yeah,
that's a one little.
Oh, but
you're
not gonna. I almost didn't want to even say this next part. This is bad.
Oh boy, say it.
So, and the second most probably infamous person that was part of Odessa and came across was a doctor, a Nazi doctor by the name of Joseph Mengele, who conducted absolutely horrendous and barbaric medical experiments on concentration camp prisoners.
Yes. And
the most upsetting part about this is he lived out his natural life in Brazil.
How do we know? Do you know how we know that he did?
No, he did. I mean, there was pictures of him in the 70s just eating at a diner with his family. I don't know why. I think there was maybe with Brazil in particular. I don't know the specifics behind this.
I was going to say, if we knew, if the world knew he was there, how come the U.S. didn't step in or Israel didn't step in?
Because I mean, so Israel, what they did in the early 60s, Eichmann was illegal under Argentinian law, right?
Right, they did it very covertly.
It was covert, yeah.
They had to sneak him out of the country.
Exactly. Right. It was all done,
it's not like Argentina was hey,
they were not
we brought this Nazi over here. Yeah. Do you want him?
Exactly. They weren't going to extradite him.
Okay. So probably the same with Brazil?
That's what I'm assuming. And so, he got to live the rest of his life.
I hate everyone.
I know. This is insanely upsetting, though, is that a 2012 study estimated that around 9,000 Nazi officials and officers eventually found themselves in South American countries.
9,000?
9,000. That's how well connected this Odessa network was. They weren't the only one. They were just the biggest and most well-funded. And most infamous, I suppose, now. 9,000.
I had no idea. I don't know, because you see, in movies or TV shows and stuff when they do it, I always imagined it was, a handful. Mm-hmm. A handful that just, influenced people when they got there, influenced other psychopaths when they arrived in these countries, but no. I didn't realize 9,000.
9,000. I know.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And I think, and also, my note here underneath that was disappointed.
Absolutely. So, is Odessa Odessa's like, it's just like a secret like shoot off of it's just like a almost like a group membership style thing
of like former SS officials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
And their families.
Yeah, and their families. So I know it's absolutely nuts. I mean, I it's hard for me to like put words to it, but I think also, but like I do want to make one point here is that like I've been picking what seemingly is picking a lot on like South American countries, particularly Argentina and Paraguay, but I mean, the United States, the Soviet Union were also very much so complicit in taking and pardoning these, Nazi officials, war criminals that conducted terrible experiments, but were like brilliant, and we could use them for our own means, like our own. I'm pretty sure like our rocket program, that got us to the moon, definitely had people
from the Nazi Party.
Yeah, that helped. I mean.
Nazi scientists.
Exactly. Like, in some way, shape, or form. And that, like...
I'm just so disappointed in everyone.
I know, it really is. I mean, yeah, like, there was a whole... I know there was a CIA, like, mission or whatever you want to call it. That was Operation.
Yeah.
That was, like, literally set up to, find and recruit ex-Nazis and bring them to the United States and give them, like, full pardons.
That's disgusting. It's not even like these guys tried to bargain their way in and like begged and made promises. It's like we were like, who would be a great hire? Nazis.
Yeah.
Like,
only the U.S. government in its infinite wisdom would do something like that.
That's so...
But actually, no, not only because the Soviets did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean... and
that's insane.
So, like, I bring that up in particular because, like, yes, like, the large masses went to South America, but, I mean... But we want to, like, always, like, want to have this, like, moral high ground. Like, we defeated the Nazis, and we did. And, like, our GIs... like, deservedly, like, are, like, deserve to be lionized, essentially, they were...
The service members that went and fought.
Exactly.
And did what they
needed to do.
What they needed to do. It's, like, the larger leadership that were just equal.
Some, like, generations, like, give all and some take all, and they were definitely the former. That generation gave their all. So... I know,
and so we know this now, but at the time, this must have all been so covert.
It was like, incredibly
imagine
covert.
What pieces of shit the U.S. would have looked like to the world. Like you said, like feeling very, like, superior for having helped defeat the Nazis, and then being like, but we would also like you to come over here and teach us your evil ways, please.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, it must have just been really, really secretive, and that's just I imagine a soldier, anyone finding that out in that time, and just the deception and the disenchantment and the, like, well, I don't know, my morale would be crushed to know that my government that sent me out there and let me and my friends risk our lives would do that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. So that's pretty much all I have on that.
On Odessa?
On Odessa. And, I think the one piece that I think I'll leave everyone with is that all these Nazis came over, they developed their spheres of influence, and those spheres of influence permeated into culture, into government, into art, which is terrifying.
Babe, that's such a good point.
I know, and it's... the Nazis did die out, right? But their ideals, do they live on?
Absolutely.
And
in
I
this
think
country
we see it
and in other countries. Yeah,
we see it. It's not like the exact same, but like those offshoots are there. And it's like, it's almost like a weed. You just need to plow up the field and burn that taproot.
You're right. I think for me personally, growing up and going to school here in the U.S., I think we like to think of these issues as being a thing of the past.
Right.
And being something that we defeated and squashed and we were the heroes, but it is permeating our systems today. Oh
yeah, and exactly. And you know what? This is kind of like almost like a a funny example. I know. So I know. I almost like paused, or I almost didn't say that, but like, it reminds me of that story that you told me about your cousin, who was when she was in Argentina and she was at boarding school. Like,
she wasn't at a boarding school, but yeah, she was at a.
Yeah, you tell the story.
My family was living in. My family members were living in Argentina for my uncle's job, and these girls at my cousin's high school were being kind of mean. I went to go visit, and they were just, unfortunately a stereotypical catty teenage girl. Not all teenage girls are catty, but these girls were. And they were bragging to my cousin and I that they had German ancestry. And I was 17, and I just looked at them, and I was like, I wouldn't brag about that.
Yeah,
if I were you.
What?
And they were like, why not? And I was like, because that definitely means your ancestors were Nazis. Like your grandparents probably.
Yeah, not that far away.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily.
Right.
But
if you're Argentinian and you're you have German ancestry, that's from your grandparents' side or great grandparents' side.
It was, yeah.
I got it. Maybe you should keep that on the DL.
I just wouldn't brag about it.
Yeah, that's
because even if it's not the case for your family, it's just a coincidence or whatever, you should know the history and you should have the sensitivity to not brag about it. I don't know.
Not brag that your ancestors are Nazis?
Yeah, let's just not brag about that.
Yeah, I would definitely, if I had Nazi ancestors, I would definitely keep that on the DL. Yeah, that's not something I would brag about.
One would hope.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah, you know what what I just realized that you kind of did here is that first cult, what was it called?
The Thule Society.
The Thule Society essentially was so strong that it survived all the way to Odessa.
Yes. It was kind of like the continuation.
Yeah, it's the through line is this belief in Aryan superiority and dominance it was so strong.
And it evolved, right?
It evolved with the time.
It started with just spreading the ideals, and then it corrupted and became so powerful that it not only spread the ideals, it spread the people that spread the ideals across it's like a cancer across the entire world. Absolutely,
that's a really good way to describe it. That was so good, babe.
I know that was a tough one.
That was disturbing, but it was really good. I think that's really important.
It is important
to talk about and to share, and for us to not ever forget things like this, and like you said, the sphere of influence that still is present today in a different way, maybe, but it's still
there.
It's still there.
Deep breath. Exhale. Okay.
To end this on a slightly shifting to maybe positive note, you know what this kept making me think of was the movie that we saw with
Oscar Isaac.
With Oscar Isaac. What's that called?
I don't know the name, but they find Adolf Eichmann in Argentina. They detail that Israeli expedition force.
Let me look it up. Hold on.
Okay. Guys, hold on here. Oscar Isaac. I mean, it's going to be hard because he's in a million movies now.
That's so true.
Oh, was it Star Wars?
I'm pretty sure it was the Addams Family.
Oh my god, this dude is in everything.
Hold on. Operation Finale? Was that it? I think so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Operation Finale.
So it was a 2018 film, Operation Finale.
Good movie.
It says 15 years after the end of World War II, a team of top secret Israeli agents traveled to Argentina to track down Adolf Eichmann. Totally recommend watching it if you haven't. We loved it. I mean, you're sweating bullets the whole time.
Oh my god, yes, you are.
It's super suspenseful, but it's bittersweet and it's dark and it's upsetting at times, but there is a small sense of closure
and justice
in it. So if this episode has you reeling a little bit, I definitely or interested in learning more, I recommend watching that movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very well done film.
Absolutely.
And very well done story, babe.
Oh, thank you. I'm bowing.
Woo! So thank you all so much for sitting here with us and listening to this podcast every Monday. It means so much to us.
It really does.
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to to share these stories, not just with each other, which I love. I love talking with you.
I do too.
But it's cool when we have like friends and family even just reach out and like mention or bring up things from the podcast. It makes us really happy to know that we're providing some accidental knowledge or
some semblance of joy.
Hints of entertainment into your day.
I love it.
So thank you all again, and check us out every Monday for new episodes.
Yes, absolutely. And you can always find us on social media. We're biggest on probably the gram right now.
The gram
at History for Weirdos. Stephanie does a great job curating those posts.
I do a job, you know.
You do a job.
And you can always go to our website, historyforweirdos.com, and if you have a weird history story that you would like for us to dive into on a future episode, you can email us at historyforweirdos@gmail.com. And it's for like FOR, not the number.
Yes, that's correct. And I think, without further ado, I think we can close this episode out. What do you say?
Yep, I'd say that's it.
All right, guys, have a great day and stay weird.
Goodbye, weirdos.
Bye, weirdos.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.